I'm Ananya Datta and I'm back with another edition of Race to Power. Alright, some big news coming in from the US elections. Both vice presidential picks, Tim Walz and JD Vance, have agreed for a debate on 1st of October. It will be hosted by CBS News in New York City. Vance accepted the invitation moments ago. Remember, Walz had earlier taken to his social media account to say this, that's on your screens, see you on October 1st, JD. To which Vance replied by saying, the American people deserve as many debates as possible. Not only do I accept the CBS debate on October 1st, I also accept the CNN debate on September 18th as well. I look forward to seeing you at both. All right, for those of you who are just joining in, just moments ago we saw the Republican vice presidential pick, JD Vance, confirm that he will be showing up for the debate at CBS in New York City on October 1st. This, of course, comes a day after the Democratic vice presidential pick, Tim Walz, had agreed to a debate for CBS. And JD Vance has gone onto Twitter to say that Americans actually deserve not just one debate but multiple debates, which is why JD Vance has not only agreed to the October 1st debate but also another debate in October for CNN. Now, these are some latest news just coming in from the US elections. And to get us the latest, our correspondent Susan Tehrani is joining us on the phone line from New York. Susan, we are going to see a vice presidential debate on October 1st. Your thoughts? All right, Susan, if you can hear me, I would like to hear your thoughts on this news just coming in from New York City, where we are seeing that the vice presidential debate might be slated for October 1st because Tim Walz and JD Vance both have agreed to it.
Okay, so from what I understood, I'm sorry I can't hear you very well, it appears that JD Vance has agreed to debate Tim Walz on October 1st. He said that a Thursday today that he did indeed accept the invitation from CBS News for a vice presidential debate. The reason this matters is Governor Tim Walz said earlier this week that he had accepted that October 1st invitation, meaning the two running mates will share the stage at least once before the elections. And Vance also said that he accepted an invitation from CNN for a VP debate on September 18th as well.
Absolutely, Susan. Thank you so much for joining us from New York and getting us those updates. Now, former US President Donald Trump has voted early in the Florida Republican primary, but Trump's participation in early voting offers a stark contrast to some of his previous criticisms of the practice. Walking out of the polling station near his residence in Palm Beach, Trump called it a great honor to vote.
Great honor to vote. They've done a fantastic job here, and we appreciate it. We think we're doing very well. We just had a poll that shows we're doing very well, and we have an interesting couple of months ahead of us.
However, Trump has repeatedly flip-flopped in his messaging to supporters, sometimes encouraging them to vote early or by mail, while at other times making false and misleading claims about the security of the process. This rhetoric of Trump has been central to his attempt to undermine the election results, if it is not in his favor. In 2020, the former president pushed false claims after losing to Joe Biden. He alleged electoral fraud stole victory from him in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin that year.
The election was rigged and stolen, and now our country is being destroyed. I ran twice, I won twice, and did much better the second time than I did the first, getting millions more votes in 2020 than I got in 2016, and likewise getting more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country by far.
However, no widespread vote-by-mail fraud has ever been found despite his claims. A Washington Post analysis of data collected in 3 vote-by-mail states from 2016 and 2018 shows that instances of double voting and people voting on behalf of deceased people is just 0.0025% of more than 14.6 million ballots cast. This amounts to 372 possible instances of fraud, which is far from what will be required to swing a national election. On the other hand, U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders has issued a striking warning, alleging that Donald Trump is gearing up to deny the 2024 election results by weaving false narratives already. The Vermont senator weighed in after Trump falsely claimed that Harris is using artificial intelligence to fake images of thousands of people at her campaign rallies and that, quote unquote, nobody showed up in Detroit. Bernie Sanders has issued a statement, and I'm quoting from that. Clearly and dangerously, what Trump is doing is laying the groundwork for rejecting the election results if he loses. If you can convince your supporters that thousands of people who attended a televised rally do not exist, it will not be hard to convince them that the election returns in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and elsewhere are fake and fraudulent. Remember, the enthusiasm and media attention for Kamala Harris in recent weeks have reportedly frustrated Trump. He has been stewing about her crowd sizes online and fantasizing that Biden will somehow attempt to wrest back control of the presidential nomination at next week's Democratic convention in Chicago. Now, it has been about a month since Kamala Harris decided to run for the White House, and she has announced her running mate and will possibly become the official Democratic nominee in the next 4 days. But what is her economic plan? At a time when markets are having a meltdown and unemployment rose to 4.3%, can she rely on Joe Biden's report card? The answer is no, and Harris realizes that. In about 24 hours from now, she is going to lay out her economic policy. She will focus on high grocery costs by targeting big corporations, tackling prescription drugs, and cutting costs of rental housing and home ownership. She is looking to build support for small businesses and also crack down on unfair mergers and acquisitions. Harris will also draw contrasts with Trump's on tax policy. She is going to toe the same line as Biden's promise not to raise taxes on people who make $400,000 or less a year. It is not expected to be very different than Biden's. Harris's team has previously said that they want to focus on the same issues, but with a different approach.
Yes. I told you we're going to have a soft landing. We're going to have a soft landing. My policies are working. Start right in that way, okay?
Experts say it is crucial for the Harris campaign to lay out the economic plan because with inflation down below 3% for the first time in nearly 3.5 years, it is a good time to capitalize on the long-term effects of her government's efforts. She has so far centered on healthcare and abortion rights, and while that has rallied the Democratic camp, it is not enough. As November 5th approaches, economy will move up on the ballot. And to take this further, Lester Munson, Senior Fellow, National Security Institute, co-head of the international practice at BGR Group, a leading government relations firm in Washington, D.C., is joining us live. Thank you so much for joining us here on WION. Absolutely good to see you as well. Let me start with a few numbers that I have of the opinion polls that have just come in. These are the latest numbers we have. The first one is by Financial Times Michigan Ross poll, where the voters say that they would rely on Harris when it comes to economy, about 42% of them. And very close, just 1% down, is Trump at 41%. To just counter that very quickly, CNBC All America Economic Survey says that voters think that they are better off under Trump than Kamala Harris by just 2-1 margin. So my point of these two polls bringing in is that it's very neck and neck, very similar to what's happening to national polls. What is your thought?
Well, I think you've actually found the sweet spot of the issue in American politics right now, where until Kamala Harris became the Democrats' obvious nominee to be president President Biden was doing very poorly against former President Trump, not only in polling, but polling specifically on economic issues, because the inflation of the last 2 to 3 years have been so impactful on American families that President Biden's rating on economic issues is actually very poor. And you kind of hinted at that in your last numbers there. Kamala Harris, as this new candidate, is not perceived as being tied to those policies that produce the inflation. So what the Trump campaign is trying to do, with very good reason, is to tie her to the record of President Biden on economic issues specifically. Kamala Harris knows that. She's going to come out with this plan, likely tomorrow, on economic issues, basically to address this exact phenomenon, to keep her in a different category from President Biden on economic issues. It's a strength for her now, but the Trump campaign is very much going after her and trying to make her more vulnerable on these specific issues.
Right, Mr. Munson, I've been looking at a few trends, and it seems like if you could dig into the history a little bit of U.S. politics, voters in general have favored a Republican candidate when it comes to economy. Their policies have tend to do better. Now, Kamala Harris, as you said, is a fresh face right after Joe Biden, who was faring very poorly. What can Kamala Harris do in the next 24 hours, which is when we think that she's going to lay out her economic plans? Do you think that she can do differently, which actually grabs the eyes of the voters?
Well, she's really going to have to show that she is not tied to the policies of Joe Biden. She's not going to say that. She can't say that explicitly because she's Joe Biden's vice president and is in the White House and is very much part of the policymaking apparatus that led to President Biden having a bad record on economic issues, or at least perceived as having a bad record by voters, which is the most important thing, of course, in a democracy. So she's going to have to try to show that she is separate from President Biden. That is a very difficult thing to do. Right now, she's able to achieve it because she has, she's seen as a fresh face. She's so much younger than the candidates we had a month ago. And people are relieved that they have a different choice now than between Biden and Trump, neither of whom are very popular. So she's got a nice little honeymoon period here where she hasn't really been tied to Joe Biden. She probably can't maintain that for the next 3 months up until Election Day. So, and former President Trump knows that. He's going to hit her hard on the economy. He's already trying to get ahead of her by being more populist on economic issues, by saying for example, and this is a big issue here in the United States now, he would eliminate the tax on tips for service workers, mostly, waiters and waitresses and things like that. But this kind of populist move was mirrored by Kamala Harris just a few days ago when she said she too would remove the tax on tips.
Absolutely.
Her new economic plan that's going to come out likely tomorrow will include some more populist measures targeting blaming big companies for inflation and making a governmental effort to hold down prices on key things like food. It won't work. It's not realistic. It's not a real policy. This is, we were talking earlier about President Trump lying about the results of the election in 2020, which is true. He is lying about it. Kamala Harris is probably going to be lying about her economic policy. She will not be able to hold down prices in the way she talks about, but she's going to try to do that. She's going to try to show she's as populist or more than Donald Trump on economic issues. So this is the new development here. You're asking about the history of U.S. political parties. They're actually in the same place right now where they're both trying to appeal to lower income voters and give them relief from the government, whether it's on taxes or on prices, and appealing for those votes. So really, both parties are kind of chasing the same voters right now.
All right, Mr. Munson, very interesting thoughts there. Thank you so much for joining us on WION. Good to speak to you.
Thank you.
All right, now crypto users have invested $592 million in predicting the outcome of the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Despite a 45% chance of Donald Trump winning the election, the former president has received more attention in terms of betting volume. Over $74 million has been wagered on Trump's victory, surpassing the $64.8 million bet on Vice President Kamala Harris. She currently holds a 53% chance of winning, and this discrepancy highlights a significant interest in Trump's candidacy, even though Harris is favored by prediction markets. Recent developments include a live conversation between Donald Trump and Tesla CEO Elon Musk. on X. Despite Musk's past criticism of Trump and support for other politicians, his recent engagement has had a minimal effect on cryptocurrency betting trends. Historically speaking, Polymarket has seen successes such as accurately predicting President Joe Biden's decision to drop out. However, it also faced challenges such as missing Tim Walz's selection as Kamala Harris's running mate. Crypto bettors were initially favoring Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Betting patterns on Polymarket have shown significant adjustments over time. Early predictions were off mark, with initial bets favoring Josh Shapiro for the vice presidency, while Tim Walz was largely overlooked. Eventually, bets on Walz surged to 73% after initial predictions only placed him at 4%. And this shift highlights the volatility and evolving nature of crypto betting markets. Let's focus to Bangladesh now, where ex-Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's extradition remains uncertain. High drama unfolded in the streets of Dhaka. Hundreds of student protesters and political activists assaulted suspected supporters of ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. A mob wielding bamboo rods and plastic pipes attacked several suspected supporters of Sheikh Hasina. They vowed to quash a rumoured rally for the ousted Bangladesh Premier outside her childhood home. The face-off comes on the 49th death anniversary of Hasina's father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Remember, Mohammad Yunus's led government, the interim government, cancelled the National Mourning Day observed by the previous government.
We are here to guard our revolution so that it doesn't slip out of our hands. We learned that the fugitive and dictator ex-premier Sheikh Hasina has ordered her goons and militia forces to come to the site so they can produce a counter-revolution in the name of paying respect to Dhanmondi.
Meanwhile, Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal has launched a probe into Sheikh Hasina and 9 others on charges of genocide and crimes against humanity. The case relates to the student protests against her government from July 15th to August 5th. The complaint filed on Wednesday includes allegations against Hasina, Awami League General Secretary and former Road Transport and Bridges Minister, former Home Minister and other key figures from the party. A team of UN experts will visit Bangladesh next week to investigate the killings of the protesters ahead in the aftermath of Hasina's resignation as the Prime Minister just last week. Meanwhile, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed concerns over attacks on Hindu and other minorities in Bangladesh.
बांग्लादेश में जो कुछ भी हुआ है उसको लेकर पड़ोसी देश के नाते चिंता होना मैं इसको समझ सकता हूं। मैं आशा करता हूं कि वहां पर हालात जल्द ही सामान्य होंगे। खास करके 140 करोड़ देशवासियों की चिंता कि वहां हिंदू, वहां के अल्पसंख्यक, उस समुदाय की सुरक्षा सुनिश्चित हो।
We're now slipping into a short break, but on the other side, we go across to Sri Lanka, where elections are slated for next month, and too much is happening.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Welcome back. You're watching Race to Power with me, Ananya Datta. And as promised, we start from Sri Lanka. The country is all set to vote next month, and the presidential election race has gathered pace as 39 candidates filed their nomination to the Election Commission. This election will be Sri Lanka's first major poll since it ran out of foreign reserves, sending its economy into free fall and forcing it to default on its foreign debt back in 2022. A total of 39 candidates, including 3 minority Tamils and 2 Buddhist monks, are in the poll fray. However, there is not a single woman candidate among the presidential aspirants for the September 21st elections. Let's take a look at the top 5 contenders for the presidential polls. First up is incumbent president and right-wing liberal Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is contesting as an independent. The 75-year-old lawyer is a 6-time prime minister. He was elected by the parliament in July of 2022 to replace Gotabaya Rajapaksa amid the economic crisis. And since taking over, Wickremesinghe has negotiated a $2.9 billion bailout loan from the IMF, doubled personal taxes, frozen state employment and cut energy subsidies. He vows to continue the tough measures for a full economic recovery. 57-year-old opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, a former ally of Wickremesinghe, he turned nemesis in the poll fray. He is the son of long-serving Prime Minister and President Ranasinghe Premadasa. He was deputy leader of the UNP with Wickremesinghe. He formed SJP party after a split in 2020. And next up in the race is Namal Rajapaksa. The 38-year-old scion of the powerful Rajapaksa family is a last-minute entrant who has dimmed Wickremesinghe's prospects. Many consider Namal's entry a dress rehearsal for the 2029 election. Another key contestant is Anura Kumara Disanayaka. He is a leader of the National People's Power, or the NPP. The 55-year-old is also committed to the IMF bailout program negotiated by Wickremesinghe but opposes privatization. The 73-year-old former general Sarath Fonseca is contesting for the top job as well. He shares the credit for crushing Tamil rebels in a no-holds-barred war that ended in 2009. As many as 22 million Sri Lankans will choose their 10th president for a 5-year term next month. Official campaigns will begin after the election panel approves the candidates, with Wickremesinghe has been approved for the presidential race. He will hold his first rally in the historic city this Saturday.
I have stabilized the economy. I have increased production. So they have food to eat. They have fuel to travel around. But it's not over yet. Life can be hard for some people. We have to stabilize the economy. So what we are saying is, let's go ahead and finish the job. And that's why I'm asking for your support.
In the coming weeks, the candidates are expected to announce their poll manifestos. Their key focus will be to chart Sri Lanka's way out of its financial crisis. Other key election issues will be to curb corruption and improve living standards. And our correspondent Dasunia Thauda has more on this from Colombo.
39 candidates are all set to contest in Sri Lanka's all-important presidential elections, which will take place on the 21st of September. However, there appears to be a unique situation that might unfold following the September 21st election count, which is that for the first time in Sri Lanka's election history, no candidate may garner a 50% majority, which only leads to the country's preferential voter system coming into play for the first time of the country's election history. Stay with WION as we bring you the very latest. Reporting from Colombo, I'm Dasunia Thauda.
And that's all we have for you in this edition of Race to Power. If you're watching us from India, happy Independence Day to you. I'm signing off. I'm Ananya Datta. Goodbye.
Namaste. Hello, friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in.
Yo One Health.